Hey everyone, it's Camille from Chicken Scratch and Sniff. Welcome to a new year of teaching Relief Society and Priesthood. Today we're going to talk about 5 more ideas to help you teach Gordon B. Hinckley Chapter 1, which is all about the Restoration. Now, there's lots more ideas up on the blog, cknscratch.com, or there's also the link on the blog post to our private Facebook group where you can discuss these ideas with other teachers that are teaching it this week, just like you. Now, to begin, I have a whiteboard and I'm going to do my best to fit it all on the screen for you guys, so bear with me, okay? I talked about this idea a little bit up on the blog so you can kind of see the timeline that I did on the blog. So here, everything's backwards, I know. So this would be today, and then way back here would be the apostasy. And instead of filling everything out beforehand, you would fill it out during class. Say, okay, so what happened between here and here? And hopefully you'll get them to put Christ was alive before the apostasy, and you'll have the restoration on here, and most of the things that were on that are mentioned in the manual for chapter 1. The restoration, priesthood restored, and what you really want to focus on is getting them to say the Renaissance and the Reformation happened, whether they say the Bible was translated into several languages for people to be able to read it for themselves instead of just at the churches. Or if you have somebody say, the printing press was invented so that they can be more distributed, whichever way, as long as you get to that point. And then on the timeline, when you're using it, say, why is this part before the Restoration, the Renaissance, and the Reformation important part? Why was it important in order for the Restoration to happen? And you can spend a few minutes on this. You don't have to spend a ton of time on this. But it's important to recognize that it prepared the way for the Restoration. Now, in Primary 5, that's senior primary, they're learning about church history this year. And so in their Lesson 2, so Primary 5, Lesson 2, you can find it on the blog. Just click on Primary 5, Lesson 2. There's this handout, okay? And it talks about 3 people that helped prepare the way for the Restoration. Just like John the Baptist prepared the way for Jesus Christ, the Renaissance and the Reformation, so many things, so many people prepared the way so that the Restoration was able to happen. This just has 3 things, because that's what was mentioned for Primary 5's manual. So it has John Wycliffe, Martin Luther, Roger Williams, and you can either cut these strips out and give them to people beforehand so they can kind of present a little bit, or you can hand them out during your class, or just use them for yourself so that you have information. It has bullet points of just some of the basic things that they did, and you don't want them to read every single bullet point. You just want them to read it and be able to quickly sum it up if they're presenting it in your class. And so you can do that at this point. Elder Hell's talk that I linked to on the blog also has other mentionings. There's more names in the manual that you can look up, and just, don't take the whole lesson on them, but mention a few of those things, like translating it from Latin to German, and then the printing press was available so that they could distribute those Bibles. And that in and of itself was huge, because people had the scriptures in their hands instead of relying on the church on Sunday in Latin, right? So that's one thing that prepared the way so that Joseph Smith could read that scripture and then in turn pray in the grove, okay? So that was idea number 1, with the timeline and having them fill it in and explain why it was important before the Restoration to have that kind of preparation. Okay, idea number 2. Let me flip this around. So this poster, I shared a link and a picture of it on the blog as well. You'll probably recognize it. This is just part of it. See how I cut it into puzzle pieces? And so what you can do is a few things. Like, you can cut it into 8 pieces, because in section 5 it talks about 8 basic truths that were restored in that first vision, and how they're a little bit unique, and how they affect our lives. And so you can divide up into groups, give each group a puzzle piece, and that's what they're going to talk about, and you'll have basic questions that you want them to discuss. But when they come up to present their summary, they can put their puzzle piece on the board. And then in the end, you can talk about how are we letting the Restoration change our lives with these important truths. Or you can do different questions. The thing that we want to do with these lessons is apply them. I mean, that's the whole point, right? Is so we can learn and we can grow. And the Restoration, having it at the beginning of the year is a great time to talk about those types of things. how does that apply to our lives? What new things can we do for our lives? So on back of these two puzzle pieces, I'll just read you some questions that I wrote instead. It says, what is one truth from the restoration that you appreciate? And this one says, share how you first learned the restoration was true. So you might want to call people ahead of time so that they can prepare their answers, or hand them these questions during Sunday school so they at least have some more time to think about them. And then when they present and share some of their testimony and how it's affected their lives, you can put these pieces up. I'll show you the finished piece again. So it just says the sacred grove. I know it's going to be backwards, but it says the sacred grove. What happened here changed the world. Let it change your life. And that's the takeaway that we need to take from it, is how are we letting the restoration change our lives even today, even though that happened 100 years ago. How are we letting it change our lives today? And with that point, idea number 3. I really liked in the beginning of the chapter, part of the title is a dawn of a brighter day. And I was trying to think of some object lessons to go with that kind of symbolism. You know, we've talked a lot about light this last month with the Christmas campaign and lighting the world. And you could tie that in absolutely, how we have to, we have this light, but we have to share that light so it can brighten the world, right? And now, you know, and I'm thinking about lights fading and all kinds of things that you can do. But the thing that really stuck to me was technology example, okay? So bear with me. So on our technology, we have a screen. You can adjust the dimness on your thing. I always have mine really low. Do you see this right here? It adjusts how bright my screen is. I can slide it back and forth, right? I always have mine really low because, you know, the less light it gives off, the less battery it uses, right? Which is fine because most of the time I'm inside, it's safe, no big deal. But when you go outside, like if I have my phone really low and I need to look at it to answer a call, I can't even see the green circle for me to answer it because it's too dark. The light outside outshines the light on my phone and I can't see anything. And so I have to adjust that dimness before I can see, and it's like, oh, finally I can use it, everything's clear, and I can do exactly what I need to do. And so, I know, that ties in because outside there's the light of the restoration. And if we have our faith, our testimony of the restoration on dim, it's going to be really hard to see clearly, to get that clarity that we need to get the answers that we need in our lives. It's going to be really hard to find that peace in our lives. When you turn up the brightness on your phone and you can see it, not only do you like see clearer, but it's such a relief because it's like, oh, it works, it's fine, I can move on with my life, right? It's such a relief. And so we have to have our faith, our testimonies up to the fullest brightness in order to really appreciate the restoration and to really let it change our lives. So again, you could tie it back to that Mormon ad poster where it says, let it change your lives. And part of that is increasing our testimony of the restoration so that we can allow it to seep into our lives brighter and more, and let it make those changes for us and allow ourselves to make those changes. Okay, so we have the timeline example, the dawning of a brighter day, and the Mormon ad as a puzzle, and maybe even doing it with group work. Idea number 4, since I'm on technology, I'll show you this one. Oh, here's that timeline I was showing you. It's up on the blog, okay? In the Gospel Library app, there is a section called, if you have the new download, there's a section called Church History. And if you open it up, it looks like this, okay? And one of the titles is Joseph Smith's account of the first vision. So this one right here. And in it, there are 4 things that you can read. So as you relate the first vision, you can have them even read each of these 4 things. One of them is the Joseph Smith history part. Or you can take pieces of it to expand into a better picture of what happened. And just talk about the first vision. Because that is going to be the best way to bring the Spirit into your lesson, is that first vision. Like, there's just so much power behind it that it's a great way to strengthen testimonies and to have that spirit and that influence in your lesson. So you can have different people present it, piece it together, whichever way you would like to do. Last idea with this whole let it change your life theme with this poster is we each need to find a sacred place. Joseph found a special place where he could be alone, not have distractions, and that he can learn about the answer to his prayer, right? And you can do that as well. You can find a place that can be sacred to you. And it could be, you know, your bedroom, just like it is every other day when you say your prayers. But it's a state of mind and the way that you prepare for it. So, for example, instead of just going in and praying next to your bed, you're going to, maybe this time you'll leave your phone downstairs so you're not even tempted to look at it, especially immediately after you're done saying your prayers. Maybe you're going to pray in this corner of your room where there's just not very much there, so it's clean and it's calm. You might even go into your closet if you have to, but you're going to find something in some way to have that sacred experience. And you can discuss these ideas in your classes. You know, what can you do to have that sacred place for yourself, to receive that inspiration, that calming influence? Maybe you're even going to do some deep breathing exercises before you even start praying, just so that your mind is clear and you're ready to receive that inspiration. So talk about those ideas in your lesson. So those are the 5 ideas I have for you. Please make sure you go back on the blog and get more ideas. I'll link to this Primary 5 handout so it's easier for you to find as well. And come join our private Facebook group and share your ideas, your questions, and your other object lessons. That'll be great. Have a great day, you guys.